All right, friends. Someone pop on here and let us know if we are sideways or not. Oh, it worked. Okay. So we're here. We have one viewer. It's us.
Oh, yeah. Why didn't you click on us? Okay.
Oh, that's funny. All right, friends. Hey, Holly. Glad you're here. We are going to do our little live today. We got the baby. Last week there was a belly, and now there's a baby.
It's better.
And she's got the best hair ever. She's sleeping. But we are pulling up your questions, and we will get... Yeah, Sheridan's baby. She's sleeping.
Like
and so
newborns
cute. Yes. Only sleeping and eating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her name's Audrey. It's a girl. 10 pounds.
10
Holy
pounds,
mackerel.
21 and a half inches.
Big baby.
Big baby. Big belly, big baby.
Yeah.
That's how we make them.
We're just smitten.
Mm-hmm.
The hair's the best.
She's the sweetest.
And all of the other 6 children are with my husband, so wish him luck.
Yes.
We're on vacation right now.
It's work.
Let's work.
It's a
We're
work
on a
trip.
work trip. We're writing it off. It's gonna be fine.
That's right.
All right. So we are gonna start with our questions. If you are watching and you have a question that comes up, please feel free to write it in. But we're gonna start with the ones that people posted yesterday.
All right.
Okay.
My right side is so hard. Well, Willow's nursing off of it. I'm getting milk out, but it's hard and it hurts. There's also not been a major change in Willow's nursing habits. What does mastitis feel like? Could this be it?
All right, so Megan's asking about mastitis. So mastitis is, there's ducts, that make the milk, and the milk comes down. And when the milk sits for too long, it can curdle. And when it curdles, it can clog the ability for the milk to then keep coming out, and we call that a clogged duct. When a clogged duct sits for too long, then it can become infected. So mastitis is the infection of the clogged spot. Oh no, it's telling me of low connection. All right, okay, we're back. So, hey Megan, we are just talking about your question. So mastitis is a single location that has got an infection in it. Often women with mastitis will experience symptoms like the flu, very high fever, chills, you literally feel awful. You feel awful. And you often can see a red spot on the breast that is insanely tender to the touch. It hurts to nurse off that side. Often it can be red and radiating color, so it'll be dark and then get lighter. So those would be indications of mastitis. A clogged duct would be similar, but not red, no fevers, no chills, but tender, in that you could kind of find one spot that's tender. When I've had clogged ducts, and I've had them a few times, sometimes women describe them as a single spot that feels clogged, but for me, and I think it's probably because I have very low storage capacity, so I feel like my body's kind of making milk, I don't store very much. I feel like my body's making milk a lot. So when I have a clog, it doesn't take long before the entire duct is full. And so I won't have a little clogged spot. I'll have a long clogged spot all the way up my breast. So it's usually in one spot. The rest of the breast feels really soft, and there's one spot that feels hard and tender. So Megan, if your entire breast is feeling hard, I don't think it's mastitis, and I don't think it's a clogged duct, because for your entire breast to feel hard, that sounds more like you're just having kind of a oversupply.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, engorged, just a little bit. It could become mastitis, but
yeah.
My hope, if you can get them to nurse on that side more, and then drink a lot of water to keep the mastitis from coming on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like you have mastitis currently, but any
you
clog.
Watch out for that.
Yeah, and anytime milk is not moving, you're at risk for getting mastitis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, keep it moving.
But yeah,
and drink.
hard and hurts. Just keep it moving. And or get in the shower after he nurses and try to drain it a little bit with your hands.
That's a good idea.
And move the milk out. But yeah, it could become mastitis. Doesn't sound like it is yet, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, drink a lot of water.
Water's good.
Okay. Okay, so this next one is looking for suggestions on night weaning. We co-sleep. She nurses every 2 to 3 hours. I've tried putting her in her own crib every few weeks, but I haven't had any luck yet.
And it's her baby's first birthday. So Rebecca, your baby's first birthday. So your baby's 1. So I will start by saying, like, we tend to shy away from doing any nighttime adjustments or recommendations prior to the age of 1. Under 1, it's really important for babies to be close and like nurse frequently, and it's very protective for SIDS and all of that. So the fact that your babies had their first birthday does leave us like more kind of room for manipulating sleep and not being worried about some of those other developmental things. So when I listened to this Gold conference, I guess it was like a month and a half ago now, and there was an entire section on weaning, and she specifically talked about night weaning, and it was very interesting because this particular woman, I think she was from Europe somewhere. It's an international conference, so she wasn't a U.S. person, but she talked about the process that she encourages parents through, and she actually has them focus first on scheduling and kind of manipulating daytime feedings, and then moving to eliminating nighttime feedings, which I thought was interesting because I feel like a lot of times we desire like the nighttime weaning, like let's be done nursing at night. I'll nurse whenever I want during the day. And so she kind of suggested not that you decrease daytime feedings, but that you organize them. So her suggestion was step 1, you organize your daytime feedings and create associations with your child that are very, very clear. So when we wake up, we breastfeed. So like they know, like we wake up and we breastfeed and then we have breakfast. And like every day it's that same pattern. We wake up, we breastfeed, we have breakfast. Then maybe if you're nursing around nap time, you make that association. Oh, we're going to have a snack, we're going to nurse, and then we're going to nap. And so she had, like you create all of the associations. At bedtime, we have our bath, then we nurse, then we go to bed, whatever it might be. Like creating the before and after the nursing session as very, very predictable for your child so they can start to anticipate it, know that it's coming, and know what follows next. Then she suggested making a visual aid for them, like a book, either taking pictures that you've taken yourself, drawing something of this. So you could like look at the book together, like, look, we wake up in the morning and we nurse and then we have breakfast, and like a visual aid for the child. And once you had that pattern going and they were like, you were able to say, like when they wanted to nurse that wasn't the right time during the day, oh, remember, we're going to nurse after we have snack and then we'll go to nap. Right now, we're going to do something else. And she kind of encouraged, finding other activities to do, being willing to take your kids to the park or whatever, keeping them occupied. And once that was in play, then her next step was then eliminating nighttime feedings. She said during the time of adjusting the daytime feeding, she felt like it was important to kind of allow the child to nurse at night as much as they needed. And then once that was settled, moving to eliminating nighttime feedings and creating associations then at night with like, we nurse before we go to bed and then we don't nurse until the sun comes up in the morning or whatever it might be. Right. So it was interesting to me because I'd not really heard that process. And she said, she's like, parents come to me and they want it to happen like overnight, but really like gentle weaning and really helping your child move through like the weaning process takes time. And like, it is not something that happens overnight, and it's something that we want to move through carefully and gently and talk to our children and not just eliminate feedings and like have them be confused. So I think when it comes to like night weaning, I could try to get you some of her information. You could try following her technique if that seemed interesting. There's also a lot of people who will look for books. What's the name of that book? Like the kids' book about like nursing.
Oh yeah, Nursing When the Sun Shines.
Nursing When the Sun Shines, like things like that, where you can like read to your child, like, oh, this is a book about how we just nurse when the sun is up, and we're gonna, in a little while, in a couple weeks from now, we're gonna start doing this, like prepping your child, talking to them a lot, even at 1. Like we have to be. Remember, these are human beings. Like we have to talk to them. We have to prep them. It's respectful to, if you're going to change something about your relationship, that you talk to them about it and let them know what's happening. And then when you do decide to make that transition, being prepared, like it's not going to be the easiest thing. We're changing the pattern. They're going to be upset about it. And then knowing, like, before you do it, what's your plan? Like, is your husband on board? You guys should be doing this together as a team. Like, he needs to probably take over the comforting at night for a little while. Making sure you have clothing that makes it hard to nurse so that there's not, like, easy accessibility. Being prepared to not sleep for a week or 2 or 3 as that transition happens. I think a lot of times we, like, want it to happen. We want it to happen easily. When it doesn't, we go, oh, screw it, never mind. And that's fine. But I think it's confusing for our children. We bounce back and forth between, like, we're night weaning. Oh, never mind, that was too hard. I don't really want to do it. We're night weaning again. Oh, never mind, that was too hard. I don't want to do it. Like, making up your mind, deciding for sure, being consistent, setting boundaries.
Right.
I don't know if you have any other suggestions.
Yeah, I think all of that's really good, especially the daytime prep and just mentally preparing for it to be a process. And I think, too, remembering that bed sharing or co-sleeping and nursing go hand in hand beautifully, but they don't have to go together. So there's no reason to involve the crib. No, I'm just kidding. No, but just putting a baby in a crib doesn't tell them, like, oh yeah, you're done now sleeping with me and breastfeeding. Like, so I think being you can not nurse and still co-sleep, and then and if you want to do both, doing maybe one at a time.
Yes.
Because it can be hard when all of a sudden you're cuddled next to your mom breastfeeding every night, and then you're, like, in a crib by yourself and not sure what's going on. So I wouldn't suggest using the crib necessarily as a tool to, like, physically separate you when this is a 1-year-old that you can definitely, like, put boundaries with and say, no, we're not going to nurse, and have hopefully dad there to comfort them or to have empathy with them as they're, like, really upset in the night, and just reminding them of the things you talked about in the day, offering other forms of comfort like hugs and
and telling them like this, like, oh, it's
really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah, and I'll hold you. I can comfort you. I can rock you. Right. Here's your pacifier you're going to use now. Here's your cuddly.
But we're not going to nurse.
We're not going to nurse.
I think, and then that might be a more gentle transition. And I think too, with consistency, you'll be surprised how quickly kids catch on to that stuff. You'll probably have, like, a few days of, like, at least with my kids, it was always, like, a few days of just, like, really mad, like, screaming, what is going on? I mean, they're half asleep. They're like, what is going on? And you're just gently reminding them, and you're exhausted, but you're, like, doing it. And then by, like, the 3rd or 4th day, they are like, okay. And then by the week, usually they've kind of got it, especially if you're consistent. And some of the sweetest things, like, when I couldn't nurse because I was so pregnant, it just was uncomfortable. I couldn't sleep. My daughter would just cuddle with me. Like, she just understood, and she would just cuddle. And it was like, we still had that sweet bonding, and we were still able to co-sleep, and it was, like, so sweet, and it didn't really affect our connection or anything like that. And so, and then we could still nurse in the day. And so I think that I would just not think too much about putting her in the crib or because that's a whole different transition. Like, that can still happen if that's something that you want to do. But I would night wean first, or I would probably night wean first, and then start transitioning out of the bed if that's a desire. But
and I think the Sweet Sleep book that La Leche League has, I think they have a section on continuing to co-sleep and night weaning, like kind of talk through how that transition can happen.
Totally. Your child's capable. I think that's a big part of just believing that your child can do that, and that you'll be there for them as they transition into that next phase, because that's a big deal, and that's really can be hard. So, all right. This is Stephanie. I feel like Rosalie is nursing less through the day, but nurses throughout the night. This must be a toddler.
Exactly.
Could this be heading towards self-weaning?
That's a great question, Stephanie, and my answer to you is no. This is just another one of those transitions in your breastfeeding relationship. Breastfeeding looks different at every phase, and a lot of times when babies start to get distracted or eager to walk around and, like, they're busy, they do stop nursing as much during the day. And I think sometimes, this is true of, like, a lot of things in parenting. We take this, like, one behavior, this one shift, and think that it, like, means that that's the trajectory we're on forever. Like, oh my gosh, she's not nursing as much during the day. This must mean breastfeeding's over. And, like, we take it, like, to that, like, potential extreme. I think we do this all the time. Like, my kid's waking up at night, they'll never sleep again. Right. Like, no, like, things are just cyclical and they change all the time. Right. But no, it is very, very uncommon for a child to motivate the weaning process, like, before the age of about 3 2.5, 3, or 4. Like that's when in cultures that don't do a lot of weaning, that's where we see typical initiation of child weaning is like after 2.5, 3, maybe even 4, 4.5. So for like a 1-year-old to be initiating weaning is very, very unlikely, not developmentally appropriate for them at all.
Right. And her weaning or her nursing so much at night is not, your supply is going nowhere. Right. Because your milk making ability is really established a lot at night. So if she's nursing through those like peak hormone hours, especially, like your supply is not going nowhere. And I think a lot of times we forget, like right now as with a newborn, like my breasts are so full, they feel so huge, and then like you forget when you're a year in that you don't have that same sensation, and so you think like I know she's nursing, but I'm probably making like nothing. Trust me, if you didn't let her nurse, you would wake up with like watermelons. You would be like, I cannot believe she takes this much, there's no way. Like she doesn't nurse that long, she doesn't that much, but she does. Like even when I was tandem nursing my kids and I weaned one of them, the older one, I think it was Emery, and I was just nursing Owen, it was crazy the amount of adjustment I had to do, and I was still nursing a baby. So I think we just don't realize it with our body's ability to adjust perfectly to our kids and realize like she's still taking a ton of milk, so your supply is fine. Like it's going nowhere.
It's going nowhere, yeah. And she may shift again. Like this is just it could be a potentially kind of temporary thing. It also is just the way the older kids nurse. Like toddlers just do the like snacking, like swing by, take a few sucks, and back off to play. And that's just part of like the next kind of stage in breastfeeding.
And a lot of times what we'll see when we hear moms say like their child weaned around here is like they go like, well, I guess they're not interested, I'm not even going to offer, and I'm going to distract them with other things when they do ask. And so like you can wean if you wanted to at this point because she's maybe a little more distractible. But if you continue to offer, there's no reason why she would wean.
Yeah, none whatsoever.
So Lauren says, follow up to Stephanie's question. Riker does good morning nurses for naps and bedtime. Should I still be offering as much as I can, or just let him lead and not push so much when we are playing or doing other things? At times he'll come up to me for a couple of seconds or minutes. How does this affect my supply?
This sounds perfect. Like that is the really perfect like 1 to 2 year old nursing pattern. Kids roll into this pattern of wanting to nurse like as a connection first thing in the morning. They want to nurse when they are ready to go to sleep, nap times, bedtimes. And I would say most people who are nursing like over 1 year olds or like past 2, like those are the times you dwindle down to. Like when I was nursing my almost 4-year-old, we were nursing first thing in the morning and before we went to bed at night. Yeah. Like those are kind of the connection points and the like, you know, helping them go to sleep with nursing. Right. So that sounds perfect. Right. It does not affect your supply. I think, and I don't know if Sheridan's going to say the same thing, but I feel like you can totally follow your kid's lead. Like we want to be very proactive about breastfeeding when we are establishing supply and we have a baby that's under 2 months old. But other than that, we really can follow their lead and like if a child's interested, offer. If they're not, wait till they are, and nothing's going to happen to your supply. You're well established at this point in time.
Right. Yeah. So you're about 10 months past worrying about supply. And I think what you are going to start seeing some typical patterns are this like, well, exactly what he's doing, nursing these kind of connection points, and then going through developmental growth spurts where he's up nursing a ton at night because he's like awake. And so he's like, oh, I'll just nurse and I'll be practicing my somersaults because that's what my brain is doing. So he'll be like rolling on your face while he nurses. And so those are the kind of the typical things. And then when he gets sick at 15 months, 16 months, 18 months, all of a sudden he's nursing and you're like, thank goodness we're still nursing because that's all he wants to do all day because he feels like crap. And then the next thing you'll probably see is as he starts running and falling and scraping his knee, then all of a sudden he wants to nurse more because he needs that connection and emotional connection. So it's not really ever going to be a supply issue. And again, it's going to be a like, what am I going to allow? And am I just going to welcome him to nurse whenever for all these, and recognize that all these other things that nursing is going to start playing in a factor in. So comfort, emotional support, immunity, regulation.
I mean, like when kids get scared and they need to like regulate themselves, like breastfeeding becomes our way of helping them through a lot of different situations.
Right. So that's kind of the note. I mean, especially all of our mommies who are nursing toddlers and going into that second year, which is so fun. and really, really just a year full of like really, really cool developments with your kid. Bringing breastfeeding into that is really fun and really can be really rewarding for both of you. It just looks so different than the first year.
Different.
You're not worried about like they're eating, so like you're not worried about, this isn't so much about nutrition, it's more about connection and immunities and support. So yeah,
that sounds perfect. Sounds like a perfect kid.
Wrap it up. Yep. All right, so Jessica says Noli's 10 weeks, waking less at night to nurse. I've noticed a decrease in my pumping output in the morning. I used to be able to pump 2 to 3 ounces on one side while she nurses on the other. Now it's 0.5 to 1.5 ounces in the past week especially. I was pumping to build a little stash for when I go to work, so I always have a little fresh milk if I need just to get out of the house. Looking for reassurance that this is all normal.
Jessica, this is all normal. So this phase that you're in right now, like hitting the 10-week mark, what all that's telling us is that you said she's sleeping a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's perfect. We don't worry about like baby sleeping a little bit longer once they're back to birth weight, which I know she was back to birth weight really quick.
Right.
So that's fine that she's doing that. She'll probably also hit a 4-month sleep regression in a little while, coming up. So enjoy it. Enjoy the little bit of extra sleep right now, because that's not going to last for too long. I think it just goes to show like your body is regulating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's not concerning, because we have to remember is when you are away from her, we don't need an oversupply. And I know that you've had supply issues in the past, and that this is can bring a lot of anxiety for you. But trying to remember too, we're just trying to get it, like the milk that you're pumping while you're away from her is what you're going to be using to feed her.
Right.
And you're not going back until she's old, almost taking solids. I think you said she's going to be around 6 months before you're going back. So you've got time to continue to build your stash. Yeah. But
and remember,
I'm not worried about it.
Even like a 2 ounces a day, we're like that 1.5 ounces a day adds up.
It does.
So the fact that you barely even need that milk, and that's theoretically like 2 hours away from her, fresh milk. And if you were to freeze that or keep it, like you would be, if you did that every day, like that's like a lot of milk.
It's a lot.
So I even if you're not pumping 2 to 3 ounces, which feels like a nice like cushion, that 1.5 or even half an ounce is like adds up. So really don't worry or like stress too much about that. You're still getting a little bit of an oversupply. And and there's worries about not having enough when you go back or whatever, like remembering that your body can still make that milk. It's just we're trying not to let it oversupply. Right. So it's a careful balance, because even though you're concerned about not having enough, having too much is a concern too, because you really don't want to go back with mastitis and having to pump all the time at your new job because you like power pumped, freaking out thinking you needed way more than you do. When remembering like the adjustment, especially at a much older baby, is going to be really way different.
Yeah.
And second babies are just different, and you're making tons of milk, which is amazing. So
I have almost 100 ounces already, Jessica.
So you might need to find a place to donate before you go back to work. Some baby in need, because Noli is not lacking for anything. No, but we do appreciate that, because we know that like mamas come in with these like this trauma of like the first baby, and it's real.
It's real.
And like when you feel like you could not feed your baby, like there's not really much that can like convince you that you can until you do, and you are. So really just going through this process and trusting your body and putting those 100 ounces in your freezer and knowing like they're there.
Right.
If I need them, you won't. But if you do, they're there. That's good. And that's how you're processing through it. And then you can still always donate that milk if you don't use it.
Yeah. And if you have a deep freeze, if you don't have a deep freezer, it might be, I don't know, depending on what you want to do. But deep freeze, you can keep milk for longer. Like it's good for a year. So if you don't have a deep freeze and you're really interested in getting one because you want to save this milk, then I would do that. Because if you're not going to be you want to we want to make sure none of it goes to waste. So you don't want it to go bad because you've got it for so long. Yeah. You're welcome, Jessica.
Good for you. That's amazing. 100 ounces.
I know. It's
She's 10 weeks old.
So you know. Wow.
All right. Nicole says, why does my baby leak breast milk out of his nose in the middle and the end of feedings? Drips like a stream down the side of his face that is down. This doesn't happen with my first, and it didn't start happening with my second until he was 3 or 4 months old.
Interesting, Nicole. I don't know that if you're on here, Nicole, I'm wondering if he seems upset by it. If he seems frustrated by it, or like
is it like upsetting, or is he getting upset after feeding and it's coming out his nose or something?
Right. I'd love to know, like,
are you holding him upside down after feeding? Just kidding.
I mean, what we do know is that the sinuses, like the passages from the nose to the mouth to the ears, are all open, connected. Right, and connected. Mm-hmm. And what we do, I can confidently say, is that we don't worry about milk going into noses, into ears, even into lungs, because the milk can have like almost a sterilizing and like cleaning effect on those sinus passages. So it's not risky for the baby to have milk in coming out of a nose. This is not protective. A risky thing.
Especially if it's like, he like hiccups and some comes up and it goes through his nose. Like those are, they have protective factors. Breastfed babies tend to get ear infections less. They still get them, but they get them less, tend to, because of this, because of the protective nature of breast milk. But it's hard to know from this question if there's something else going on that's like a reflex issue or something. But if it's just not bothering him and you just see little drips from maybe like hiccuping or burping or something, that's not a concern.
I wouldn't say it's concerning if he seems really upset by it.
Like
or in pain, then I would potentially like bring that up with the pediatrician and see if there's something that's like a flap that's
sphincters are not strengthening or something.
Right, there's something that's going on there.
Right. If I wonder too if he's a really spitty baby or not.
Yeah, is he spitting up a lot?
Or if he's not.
Do you feel like you have an insane oversupply, and maybe it's just like he's trying to let it?
Right. Or maybe he just had a growth spurt, and you have an oversupply currently, and then it will go away. Keep an eye on it.
That's true.
We probably need a little more info. I know you're a working mama, but we would love to see you on Tuesdays and talk to you more about that because I'm interested.
Yeah, I would love to.
The limited stuff we have.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, interesting. I don't know that we have any more good information for you. Yeah. Besides the fact that from a breast milk standpoint, it's not risky. Yeah.
All right. This is from Jen. She says, how do you keep baby from waking when pulling away while pacifying after nursing to sleep? I nursed her sideline for 2 naps. Now she expects me to not only lay there with her the whole nap, but let her keep it in her mouth for the good part of the nap. I don't mind, except I'm getting so sore. Okay.
Oh, Jen, know that you're not alone. That is very, very, very normal behavior. Especially, I don't know if this is your first baby, Jen, but especially with your first, when you can't lay with them. Lay with them. Enjoy every second of getting to cuddle and be with them. But yeah, sneaking out the nipple. Now that is like one of those things that is a little bit of a talent. You got to practice.
Right. Some consistency.
For me, I found 2 things that helped. I would try not to move my body positioning at all first. Like get the nipple out first while keeping the rest of us exactly the same. And then it's like this, I think actually, I don't know if Jen, you follow me on Instagram, but I think on my Instagram stories, I have a highlight of me attempting to get away from my child during a nap. And I like video the process, like step 1, try to get the nipple out. Step 2, try to move the arm. Step 3. And like, I think 3 or 4 times I have to go back and relatch and wait for a little bit deeper sleep. So there's a couple things happening. One, the baby in deeper sleep is going to be easier to move away from than light sleep. So babies stay in light sleep at the beginning of their feeding, then drop into deep sleep. So if you're trying to get away too quickly, they're going to wake right back up. So waiting for deep sleep can be one thing that's helpful. For me, like I said, keeping the baby close, sneaking my nipple out, but still letting my breast be like close, pillowing was helpful. Or sneaking my nipple out and then with my finger holding their mouth like this. I don't know why, but I think it helped. Like, and they almost start sucking on their own tongue. I don't know if your baby's ever done that. Like they do the motion, but they're on their own tongue. So like I'd sneak my nipple out, hold their chin, and like not move. You know, wait for it, slowly, wait for it, slowly. Oh, they woke up, start again. it's just,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I would say two things, like the sleep cycle thing. So when your baby typically will cycle into deep sleep, depending. So like if you do this consistently, your baby's going to cycle into deep sleep faster because they're just used to it. But if they're used to you like trying to get away, they're going to be like more on edge. So being consistent with like laying down, setting a routine, even with a little baby, like we're going to lay, we're going to do this. Nursing them until you can do that, like almost the arm drop, like the deep sleep where they're like milk drunk, is the easiest way. So that's usually like 15 to 20 minute wait. So that's one thing. The other thing to keep in mind is that this is going to totally depend on your baby's developmental stage. So a baby in a growth spurt is not going to sleep very long without you. So you might sneak away and literally 10 minutes like hear them crying. So because they don't stay in deep sleep in a lot of certain developmental segments of their growth. So like they're trying to learn to roll over, and they're just like constantly awake, constantly nursing. Whereas if you decide to like, I'm just gonna stay here while they nap, you might be able to nurse them into deep sleep and like get a few cycles, because they'll wake up back into light sleep, so you're still there, and go back down. So you'll get a longer rest because they know you're there, and they won't try to like fully wake up, but they will like keep nursing and going back down. So if you want the actual rest, if your goal is like baby needs sleep, I need rest, and I have only one, which is usually typically the case, then just committing to laying there, if you're sore from, I'm not sure what you're sore from, like nipple soreness, probably, making sure the latch is good for that. But if you're sore other way, like making sure you're really comfortable and like just resting with them for the whole time, and you'll get a longer rest.
Yeah. And you can rest and cuddle, sneak your nipple out, and just keep resting. And then
just
they want to nurse, let them nurse, and then when they get, sneak your, if your
so
nipple's
get
hurting.
back in, get them back into deep sleep, take your nipple out, and that way your nipple might get a break, but you still get a sleeping baby. And then when your baby's in those, not in a major developmental milestone, a lot of times you can sneak away for like a 45-minute, 1 hour, but don't expect much more than that. Usually 90 minutes cycle with like you laying with them for the first 20-ish, and then.
And I feel like for me that was one of the things that like, and I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this, but I feel like I always have like this list of things I'd like to get done, right? And nap time's like golden. I'm counting on this hour to get something done, right? And so when I go to lay down with my kid, what I find is if I'm up here like spinning all the things I need to get done, or I'm on my phone checking things, I'm not like relaxed. It takes so much longer for my child to chill out and go to sleep. Like they're, what's up, mom? Like, what are you, and they can like sense that like I got stuff to do. And so when I could surrender to like, you know what? I'm going to walk into this room, I'm going to look at the clock, and I'm not going to leave this room for the next 20 minutes. I'm not going to get on my phone. I'm not going to think about anything else. I'm just going to rest and cuddle my baby and look at how cute they are and just be present for 20 minutes. And then if I can it's like devoting that time early on, like really focusing in on just resting. Often my kids could like chill out, go to sleep. I could sneak away and actually get stuff done, as opposed to spending an hour and a half in this like back and forth of my kid kind of sleeping but kind of not, and what's going on, and like me frustrated, then I'm resenting them and I'm pissed off, like I got so much to do and now you're not even asleep, and why aren't you asleep, and like that like kind of giving myself a physical time limit, like I'm not leaving this room, like I'm going to devote 30 minutes right now so that I can potentially have a little bit of a nap for them. And was really helpful just mentally too, of like if I expect my kid to fall asleep in 5 minutes, it's not going to happen. It's another interesting thing from that sleep training thing that I did. They talked about the amount of time it should take for a child to transition into sleep, and like 15 to 20 minutes is like typical and normal and expected. They said children that like transition into sleep much faster may be like really overtired, and that like a 15-minute transition into like relaxing and being kind of awake, and like, and as adults too, like we should transition, and it should be a decent amount of time that we transition. We shouldn't just lay down and be asleep in like 2 seconds. So I think knowing this is a transition, like my kids should take some time before they're really in deep sleep, and I could like sneak away, and then preparing for that, and maybe finding a really good podcast to listen to or something like that. Like
I do like a good podcast. Like throw some headphones in and just be
really
and help you be more present with them.
Mm-hmm.
And two, remembering that you're setting up patterns, like your intention. It's not just like, yeah, you want to get things done, you put your kids down for a nap, but like you really want to be intentional about like, I want them to get good sleep, and I also want to set up for them this pattern of like sleep being a positive thing in association with like,
thing.
Oh, we get to go to sleep. Yes, it's like
Mm-hmm.
so wonderful. It's gonna be so restful. I still do that with my 4-year-old who still is like, nap, I don't want to nap, and we remind him every day, it's gonna be so wonderful. You're gonna feel so good after, and sure enough, like he naps and it's great.
Yeah.
So I think just setting up, remembering that you're setting an intention to for them, even at like a really little age, to like lay down and just be present with them and connect with them, and like I think I still really enjoy like laying with my kids while them to go to sleep. Like it's just a really sweet, special time, and it's not going to last forever. So if you can kind of put yourself in a like laundry can wait mode and go into like this is really important for their like development, for their like healthy association with sleep, and for like what we're trying to actually teach our children, life skill, like how to sleep, and that you're there for them, and like they will eventually be able to sleep on their own, and like that's great. But like right now, you're helping them. You're helping them, showing them how that is done.
Yeah, I think we sometimes forget, like, we know we're going to have to teach our kids, like, how to read. We know we're going to have to teach our kids how to spell, but we sometimes forget, like, part of what we have to teach is things like this, skills and, like, being comfortable and falling asleep. And it's all part of the training that we get to do for them.
So, we love good sleep around here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all of our. I'm gonna look at and see if there's anything.
If anyone has questions while you're on right now, we'd love to answer them. Those are all the questions from yesterday. Oh, sweet baby, yes. Suzanne says she gets those long clogs too, like where the whole spot gets clogged up. Ugh. It's softer today. Oh, good, Megan. I'm so glad. Maybe it was just.
Are not going towards the mastitis side. That's good.
Yay, that's wonderful. Nicole says also, what is the best way to know what size flange you need for pumping once you are back to work? That's a great question. I feel like Carolina is excellent at pumping questions. She does a lot. She's done a lot of pumping herself, and she has a lot of expertise in that. My best suggestion for you, like right now, if we can't see you, is to like literally get online and look. They will show videos of like what a nipple should look like when pulled into the flange.
Cause damage.
Yeah, and then see if that's what your breast looks like with the flange that you have, and then switch it out if you need to.
Every breast is different.
Every breast is different, yeah. And my leg's falling asleep.
I was gonna say it's a long time to sleep.
Oh, no. Didn't seem uncomfortable when I first sat down. Oh, there we go. But yeah, I do think every breast is different, and I think you just don't want to be in pain. People often will put some type of nipple cream inside their flange as well, just to help if there is any friction. But a good fitting pump flange is important. It's going to help you get more milk, and it's going to help you be more comfortable. So I would honestly look at videos to see what a breast should look like. Yeah, should look like, and then see if that's what your boob looks like. We can also try to help you in person if possible. Yes, lecithin can help so much with clog prevention. I found it helpful when engorged too. Yeah, so lecithin is one of those. It's actually in a lot of our foods and stuff. What it does is it keeps things from what's it called? What I'm looking for. It's like an emulsifier or something.
I don't know what the word is.
Yeah, it keeps stuff from like clotting up, like binding to itself, basically. So it helps keep everything smooth. And yeah, I know some women who take it on a daily basis, just a low dose daily basis, because they're very prone to having clogs. And then like a mega dose, if they do get a clog, it can be a great thing. And there's soy and there's sunflower. There's a couple different kinds. Oh, congrats, Sheridan. Yay. Let's see, any other questions? Oh no, Berlin says, lost the audio, can't hear you. Can you guys hear us now? Someone give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
I wonder if that's when it went like the connection went down for a second.
The connection went for a minute. Hopefully that's when it was. Oh yeah, already have 100 ounces. Okay, so then Holly asks, what if you're going back to work when your baby is younger, around 3 months? So if you're going back to work when your baby's 3 months, we still usually only suggest pumping for about the week before going back to work. Stockpiling for like pumping once a day for the week or two before going back, and having that available in your fridge or your freezer, because really whatever you let me back up. It depends on what your work schedule is. Are you going back 9 to 5, 5 days a week? Are you going back 1 day a week for a 12-hour shift as a nurse? Like, what's your schedule? Are you gone at night? Are you gone during the day? All those things make a difference. There is a website called workandpump.com. Workandpump.com. Is that workandpump.com that has great information for working moms. From what I hear, it's mostly targeted to the like 9 to 5 Monday through Friday type work schedule, but they have great suggestions about pumping and storing and things like that. So depending on your schedule, we usually suggest about a week or two before going back to work, you start putting away a little bit of milk every day, like pumping in the morning, maybe one time, and then putting it away. And
shameless plug.
Oh yeah,
You
what is
can't
this?
do that.
Oh yes,
If you are going back.
If you are going back to work, when is it happening? March 28th.
Saturday,
March 28th. Carolina is doing a back to work class. So she is actually doing a class on transitioning back to work and pumping. It's called the fifth trimester. Yeah.
Yep. So incredible resource for breastfeeding moms going back to work. Practical, relatable, real life, humorous class will teach you how to survive the difficult, awkward, rewarding job of being a breastfeeding working mom. So Carolina, whom we love, she's an amazing IBCLC, works closely with us, and she's a working mom of 2 under 3, and she's gonna tell you all the stuff. 2 hours long, costs only $40. I hope it's not full yet. Oh, good, no. So yeah, if you are interested in doing that, it's coming up in a couple weeks. We should just put this link.
We'll put the link in the carriage house or in a comment here.
Yeah, so March 28th, if you guys can make that, then, because neither Natalie or I pump, we know a lot about it, and we can, especially if you're here on Tuesdays, we can talk to you in depth about what to do,
schedule.
And schedule and help you for sure. But if you want to talk to a mom who's doing it and has done it and is like a pump expert, this class could be really, really great. Especially if you're going to be doing a lot. It's just so varied now with moms working. Like she said, like we have nurses work one night shift a week, every 2 weeks, and then we've got moms who literally are flight attendants and like are gone 3 days from their baby and are breastfeeding. So it's incredible, like the different, depending on when you're going back, age of your baby, what is your goal.
What's your goal? Yeah.
There's so many questions when it comes to pumping, but we do know there's a lot of great resources and a lot of wonderful help. And so
and Carolina will do a one-on-one consult too. Like if you can't make that class or you're feeling like, I go back before that, you can contact her and she can do just a one-on-one consult with you and answer questions specific to you as well. But yeah, pumping totally can be done and women do it. Yeah, we just chatted with a woman at Olive Market who I had taught 5 years ago. She's a flight attendant and pumped for over a year while she did big trips. And like, it was amazing. She just shared like how cool it was that her colleagues like would help her. Like she'd sit in the back and she would pump and her colleagues would help her with like her part of the cabin, and she had to figure out storing her milk while she was gone for days at a time. And yeah, she like powered through and now has like been able to, she said they have like a Facebook group for it. She's a Southwest flight attendant for flight attendants, and a lot of other women, get on. I had my baby, like, what do I do? And she's been able to help so many women. Yeah. It's just so neat. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Even women who travel for work, they're like, I think it's called the Stork. They actually will ship your milk for you overnight in like a cooler, like to your baby. It's just, there's so many cool resources for any kind of mom. And then, and then if you're just, sporadically working, like ways that you can figure out nursing your baby around, like trying to run an at-home business or trying to just work a crazy, like some women travel and do in-home care and like pump in the car and all these things. So
some of it depends on your child care provider. Like I, for a little while when I went back to work when Cooper was little, I was going back, I was doing IBCLC work at Loma Linda, and I didn't have long shifts, but my husband would literally just bring the kids. So I would tell him like, hey, I'm going to take a break in 30 minutes, he'd pack up the kids, he'd bring them, and I didn't pump at all. I sat and nursed my 2 babies, and then, all right, I'll see you in 2 more hours.
You forget, especially if your mom's watching the baby or somebody who's able to throw the baby in the car, like bring them on your lunch break, and then you can have lunch and nurse your baby and just get that little boost in the middle of the day, and then you just have to do maybe 1 pump in the afternoon to get you through to 5 o'clock or something. Yeah. So
there's lots of variability. There's so many ways to make it work.
To breastfeed, and and it's not really that much harder. It's probably sometimes in a lot of cases easier than giving formula, and you still get that connection all the other hours that you're with your baby.
But I think there's something too that's just so amazing. Like when I was working away from my kiddos, or even now, if I take some time and I'm going like a work trip next weekend, I'll be gone for 2 days. There is something so wonderful about coming home and like snuggling in and like nursing your baby. I think that's just one of the best, like when you are away, to come home to that nursing relationship it's so wonderful. Such a fun way to reconnect.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Thanks for the reassurance. Jessica says she has a tiny mini freezer that we have turned all the way down, and it's only being used for milk. Does that count as a deep freeze? I would have to look and see deep freeze. In order for it to count as a deep freeze, it has to be a certain temperature. So I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I would just have to Google what a deep freeze temperature, like in order for it to be a deep freezer, it has to be kept at a certain temperature. And if your freezer's at that temp, then it's probably okay. I do know too that we usually suggest moms store milk like towards the back of the freezer and not like towards the front or in the door.
Even opening that door.
Even opening the door can make it, not.
But a lot of times deep freezers are deep. Like literally deep, because when you open the top, it doesn't affect the milk at all.
Yeah. So I would check the temperature.
Yeah.
Oh, Audrey's so precious. Yes.
Oh,
yes, she is. You guys can't even see her face. We'll have to show you her face in a minute. Riker does not sleep when I'm mentally checked out. Yeah, kids. I think we forget too. Kids are so connected to us that they sense that like anxiety, or if you're mentally somewhere else, they feel that.
Yeah.
Carolina just joined in. Okay, so Carolina says she does free flange sizing for any mama. Carolina, you're the best. We love you.
Love you anymore,
but we do. So if you need sizing, Carolina can help you. I don't know if you were popped on when we were talking about your class, Carolina, but we talked about your pumping class. So Carolina's on here if you guys maybe Carolina, can you like throw your whatever contact info you have just in the comments, so that mommies who can connect with you if you're still here. It's hard to tell. I can't tell who's here and who's not here. Jen says, thank you so much. One more question. I just purchased the Willow pump, and Carolina sized me as a 21, but it doesn't come in a 21, only a 24. Will be using larger size cause damage, or maybe reduced output, or would be uncomfortable. For the causing damage and being uncomfortable, I think I would say like you'd have to just try it and see if you feel uncomfortable. I am not an expert in sizing flanges and knowing what the pros and cons are to that. I'm wondering if there's I feel like maybe Carolina would know. There's a way that like you can put in like an insert. So if you like, the pump itself will not attach to a 21, like a way of inserting like a second flange that is the correct size. I feel like they make something like that you can like adjust.
I would even call the company. I know we had another mom who she bought the whole very expensive, very nice pump, and it didn't fit right, and she called them, and they had were just in production with her size, and she was able to get them to send her all the right stuff free of charge, because it was just, they want you to be, obviously
they want you to be happy,
and they want you to be able to use it. So I wonder if you called them and explained the situation, if they had a suggestion for you too, going straight to the company and saying hey, here's the deal, my boobies don't fit this, do you have any connections, or like you said, inserts, or what do I do?
Yeah, that's a great idea, because they want you to be happy.
Yeah,
they want you to use their pump, and so yeah, sorry Jen, I don't have better. Oh yay, Holly says you signed up for her class. Awesome.
Yay.
So then Jessica says you can buy inserts to make it a 21 from May Mom or Amazon.
Cool.
Perfect. Oscar reverse cycled and ate all night for 2 months straight while I worked 8-hour shifts. It was rough, but we made it through. So this is for those of you who are unsure or don't know what reverse cycling is. Oh, are you going to show us your face, Neil?
Oh, squash, squash.
Oh, she has a penguin on today. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Look at
Like
this.
a baby.
Oh.
Oh.
She's so cute.
Like, why are you waking me up?
You're just the best. She's the best. Oh gosh, I know. All the hearts, right?
Baby.
This baby.
Okay.
She smells good too.
Distraction.
Breastfed babies just always smell so much better. They smell so good. Oh, you're so cute. Oh. Yeah, is life hard? Life's so hard when you're, a few days old.
4 days old.
4 days. Oh, man. Oh, she's just... Stretch. Okay, so reverse cycling. No, that's fun. Reverse cycling is when babies basically, behave the way that you would expect them to behave during the day at night, and then behave the way you expect them to behave at night during the day. So babies can reverse cycle when their mommies work and not eat during the day, just like they would potentially sleep and not eat at night, and then make up for it at night and eat like crazy. All night long. So that's the other thing that sometimes we don't know how our baby will respond is if they are reverse cycling, you might not even be feeding your baby very much milk during the day with a child care provider if they're just no, I'm not doing that, and they make up for it at night. Babies are really good at doing that. Make up for it when they're with their mommy. Lauren says so much props to you pumping moms out there. Mm-hmm. Oh, Carolina knows. Of course she does. A deep freezer has to be 4 degrees Fahrenheit or less. All right. Thank you, Carolina, for putting your contact info. She put in here for free flange sizing, her contact info. Perfect. Yay. Oh, the Willow has a 21 millimeter size coming soon, she says.
Coming soon,
yay.
See? They're working on it.
You can be one of the first ones to get it.
Yeah, and you probably, if you call them and tell them, they probably will even send it to you.
Yes.
Free of charge.
And Jessica says they have 21 sizes. You don't have to buy the bags. Awesome. All right, ladies. I don't see any more comments or any more questions. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. Once again, these are all on YouTube. I finally got one from last week uploaded last night. I'll try to get this one uploaded a little bit quicker. We'll see from my iPad if it's possible. Anyways, it's kind of a process sometimes. But they're on YouTube. So if you want to pop over there and watch them, you can. They're, of course, will stay up on our page here. But it's hard to share things from here and Facebook. So we're saving them in YouTube as well. So if you've got a friend who's pregnant or someone who you think would benefit from this info, please share it with them. We would love to share and help as many mommies as we can. Stephanie says, relate to the game, but hi, friends. Oh, much love. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next Saturday. Same time, same place, hopefully. Yeah. I'll post if it's going to be different. Actually, I will not see you next Saturday. I'll be in Arizona. Oh. We'll do it another day next week because I'll be gone in Arizona. I just remembered that on next Saturday. Carolina says, your little princess is so cute. My ovaries hurt. No, she's just the best. Look at how cute she is. I know. She already got some really beautiful videos of her, first day breast crawling. Oh,
so sweet.
I know. We'll have to see if we can.
She's got good instincts. She's like a newborn.
She's got it. Well, yeah. She was ready to come. She was ready. Came on her time. So, anyways, oh, hey, Kristen. All right, friends. Well, we will see you guys next week or on Tuesday if you come to group. And, thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.